Do you know what the world's longest hatred is? The most widespread, intense, and irrational hatred? It's anti-Semitism. Jew hatred. A hatred that's been around now for more than 2,000 years. A hatred that's alive and well today. Think about it. Barely 60 years after the horrors of the Holocaust, when so many were saying, never again. And the world still hates the Jews. Why the Jews? Why do they hate us? Listen to this statement that was written almost 2,500 years ago. There's a certain people, dispersed and scattered among the peoples, whose customs are different from those of all other people, and who do not obey our laws. It is not in our best interest to tolerate them. Who is this certain people with different customs, this people that doesn't obey international law, this people that shouldn't be tolerated? It's the Jews. 2,500 years ago in the ancient kingdom of Persia, whose capital is in today's Iran. People were singling out the Jews, accusing them of being dangerous. Why the Jews? What makes us so dangerous?
What I know about Jews, they are very mysterious.
When I think about Jewish people, I think they're dedicated to religion, you know.
The big black hats, black coats, and the ties looking all funny with the curl up on the side of their face.
According to the Catholic scholar Edward Flannery, anti-Semitism is the longest and deepest hatred of human history. What other hatred has endured some 23 centuries and survived a genocide of 6 million of its victims in its 23rd century of existence, only to find itself still intact and rich in potential for many years of life. Today, levels of anti-Semitism worldwide are as high as they were immediately before the Holocaust, and the president of Iran has openly called for the destruction of Israel, yet he's invited in and welcomed by the UN. How can this be? But it's not just the president of Iran who has it in for the Jews. Anti-Semitism is all over the world and all over the internet. Check out JewWatch.com. This site became infamous in April of 2004 when a Google search for the word Jew yielded JewWatch.com as its very first hit. This website claims to be the internet's largest scholarly collection of articles on Jewish history. It boasts 637 million pages. Here's some of the links you'll find on the homepage. Zionist leaders make their plans against mankind. Zionist-occupied governments. Jewish assassins. Jewish terrorists. Jewish communist rulers and killers. Jewish genocides today and yesterday. Jewish supremacist lists and the associations they dominate. Yes, the evil Jews seem to be everywhere. How about radioislam.org? It's now available in 22 languages. Here's some of what you'll find on the website. There's a collection of 1,000 quotes by and about the Jews entitled, Know Your Enemy. The first quote comes from Voltaire in the 18th century. Why are the Jews hated? It is the inevitable result of their laws. They either have to conquer everybody or be hated by the whole human race. Another page asks, did 6 million really die? One of many pages there denying the Holocaust. If you search radioislam.org for the word money, you'll find quotes like this from Israel's Ariel Sharon. We, the Jewish people, control America, and the Americans know it. Yes, it's those terrible, damnable Jews. I mean, we seem to control everything and be responsible for all the problems in the world today. Here's a Christian website from Australia. It blasts this headline, America's rulers, are they all Jews? Is this like the Jewish administration of Hitler's Germany? It even appears that there's Raelian anti-Semitism. The Raelians are a UFO cult followed by the Frenchman Rael, who claims to have been abducted and enlightened by aliens. Here's what Rael had to say. Israel is engaged in state terrorism, and a small handful of the millions of American Jews are holding the rest of the 250 million Americans hostage. Even the Raelians are anti-Semitic. Do you know how irrational anti-Semitism is? When the Black Plague decimated Europe in the Middle Ages, Jews were accused of starting the plague by poisoning the wells with a concoction made of lizards, spiders, and the hearts of Christians mixed together with the sacred elements of the Lord's Supper. Thousands of Jews were slaughtered because of this rumor. In 1215, at the Fourth Lateran Council, the Catholic Church declared that the elements of communion literally became the body and blood of Jesus. Jews were accused of stealing and torturing communion wafers. Whole Jewish communities were burned at the stake because of this lie. In the Muslim world today, it's still believed that every year at the time of Passover, Jews kidnap an innocent victim and use his blood to make Passover matzah, unleavened bread. There are even Islamic TV shows that are devoted to spreading this lie. And the Muslim world takes very seriously the protocols of the elders of Zion. This is a notorious forged document from the 1800s. It claims that there's a secret group of Jewish leaders ready to take over the whole world and bring the world into subjection to the Hindu god, Vishnu. What in the world is behind anti-Semitism?
When I think of Jewish people, I think of well-educated people.
Well, the first thought that comes to my mind, I think of Jewish people is jewelry store. Jewelry store and businesses.
First thing I think of a Jewish community is religion. They're pretty tight together.
I think of my family, my friends. I think of the central core of my life.
To me, I think religion. I think strong religious background.
I would say a tight community because they seem to uphold their traditions.
With all the struggles and everything they've been through, they're still here, you know. Can't eliminate us.
Think about it. There's no hatred as widespread and universal as anti-Semitism. It can be traced back to the Greco-Roman world 300 years before the time of Jesus. It can be found among some of the great leaders in church history, including popes and crusaders, men like Martin Luther, who actually wrote that Jewish synagogues should be set on fire and rabbis forbidden to teach under penalty of death. Anti-Semitism is found in Islam and fascism and communism. In fact, intense anti-Semitism is about the only thing that Muslim terrorists Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin all have in common. Anti-Semitism is found among white supremacists and black supremacists. Anti-Semitism is rampant on the university campuses. Recently, British academics voted to boycott all Israeli universities. Anti-Semitism is rampant in the world press, including the BBC. Best-selling books have been written in Japan, blaming problems in the Japanese economy on the Jews, even though most Japanese have never even met a Jew. Even the car designer, Henry Ford, was an anti-Semite. In fact, Adolf Hitler read and admired the writings of Henry Ford, the international Jew, the world's foremost problem. Hitler based parts of Mein Kampf on the writings of Henry Ford. Jews have been accused of controlling the Vatican, controlling the pornography industry, controlling the Masons, spreading AIDS. And more than one New York City cab driver has explained to me that it was Jews who were behind the 9/11 terrorist attacks. So how do we explain the phenomenon of anti-Semitism? Some scholars claim it can all be traced back to Christianity, since the charge that the Jews killed Jesus, making them guilty of deicide, killing God, so permeated Western culture that it explains all the various manifestations of anti-Semitism. But there's some serious problems with this theory. First, how does it explain pre-Christian anti-Semitism? And second, can Christian anti-Semitism really explain the ongoing intensity of Islamic anti-Semitism? And what of the fact that there's Christian philo-Semitism, love for the Jews? The Israeli government recognizes the best friends it has in the world are Bible-believing Christians. Well, then there's the scapegoat theory. Bad things happened, someone has to take the blame, so the Jews get blamed. But that begs the question, rather than answers the question, why do the Jews always get blamed? A better answer is that it's the Jewish religion, because Judaism causes Jews to be separate, to stand out, to be different, and people attack what they don't understand. The problem with this is that Jews still get persecuted and hated, even when they're secular. It's often been said that in Nazi Germany, the German Jews were more German than Jewish, and still they were persecuted. Nazis even killed people who were 1/4 Jewish, meaning just one grandparent who was Jewish. In fact, Jews who converted to Christianity were still murdered by the Nazis. And the modern state of Israel is far more secular than it is religious, and yet it's hated by the whole world. And why haven't Muslims been universally persecuted for being different? Well, another answer is, hey, the reason for anti-Semitism is that Jews deserve it. In other words, they're bad people. There was actually a Pakistani cab driver that explained this to me. The Jews are just getting what they deserve. The problem with this is that Jews are often the most moral and ethical people in a society, and there are plenty of bad and rotten Gentiles. Well, to be sure, we Jews have our faults, but we certainly do not have a monopoly on being bad. Well, there's their idea that the Jews have all the money. And that's why they're hated. There's even a website that claims that Bill Gates is a secret Jew. The problem with this is that Jews are often very generous. In fact, there's a disproportionately high number of Jewish philanthropists. And often Jews in society were so persecuted and oppressed that they were kept low without money, and yet they were still hated. Let's be honest, none of these theories really works. None of these theories connects all the dots and adequately explains the reason for anti-Semitism. So what then is the reason for anti-Semitism? Do you have any idea or any theory of your own why people hate the Jews?
Ignorance.
Ignorance.
Absolutely. Ignorance.
You know, they don't falter, their beliefs stay strong no matter who goes against them, whatever, they won't conform to anything. It's a real religion, it's straightforward, and it's what they believe is what they believe, and they won't give up what they believe for thousands of years.
Anyone else with any other theories? We're just gonna...
The Jews are successful
okay.
in everything they do.
If you look at the history, it's the only people that survive. You know, the Romans disappeared, the Egyptians disappeared, the Greeks disappeared, but the Jewish people is still there. Mm-hmm. You know, because I think that Judaism is not a religion, it's like a way of life.
Mm-hmm. The idea I have is maybe because they're a minority that always the majority can, like isolate them. And
yeah, so I mean, any minority can get persecuted. That's also makes sense. The problem is, it always seems to hit us. In other words, you got all these other minorities through history around the world that don't seem to get singled out the same way. I mean, we've been accused of spreading AIDS. We've been accused of being behind 9/11. We've been accused of controlling the Vatican. I mean, it's wild. Earlier in the show, we went through crazy things we're accused of. So let's say it's a piece of the puzzle. Doesn't explain everything. I was really impressed with those answers. Excellent, eloquent, thoughtful. But they still don't connect all the dots for me. The first answer is that anti-Semitism is the result of ignorance. People just don't understand who the Jewish people are, and there has to be a scapegoat, and therefore the Jews get blamed. But even George Orwell questioned that theory. He said it really begs the question because it's still the Jews who are always scapegoated, and the Jews who are the victims of everything and accused of everything for so many years. Excellent idea, some truth to it, but it doesn't explain everything. Then another answer, an excellent answer, it's because the Jews are so successful. People are jealous, they're envious, and Jews have a lot of money and control in the society. The problem with that is that many times, for whole generations and whole communities, maybe even over centuries, we've been kept down, we've been pushed down in Islamic societies and Catholic societies and other places, and yet still, even when we were kept down, we were still hated. Well, maybe it's Catholicism itself or Christianity itself. That's what the last gentleman had to say. And that's obviously been his experience, that the church has just hated the Jews. The problem with that is many of us have had the exact opposite experience. I've been in Christian circles for over 35 years and run into almost nothing but love for Israel and love for the Jews around the world. And Israel's best friends today are evangelical Christians who read and believe the New Testament. Excellent answers, excellent theories. But none of them adequately explain the answer to anti-Semitism.
I don't think there's much anti-Semitism in this country. The rest of the world, yes, using Israel as the so-called cause of it, but down deep, I believe it's just anti-Semitism.
It's not that they hate us, it's just we're just different in this, like appalled by the differences. Because we're not with them, we're just separate with them, and that makes the outcast, basically. This is what I think.
I do not think that Christianity is anti-Semitic. I just think that they're just a little bit confused.
There's been negative feelings toward the Jews from the beginning.
I think if you ask a person, why would you hate someone who's Jewish? You know, some of them will say, oh, well, the Jews killed Jesus. Well, you know, that's a cop-out answer to me.
Our people have been persecuted for millennia in various forms.
There are some fundamentalist Christians and Jews who believe that Jewish guilt is actually the cause of anti-Semitism. In other words, because it's written in the Torah that if we would obey God, He would bless us, but if we would disobey, we'd be cursed. That means all the things we've suffered have been our own responsibility. But the hatred against us has been too vile, too intense, too ugly to be explained by divine judgment alone. Unless you want to tell me it was because of divine judgment that the Nazis threw little Jewish babies into burning pits alive so as to save the expense of a bullet. Look, even within the Hebrew Bible, God was angry with the nations that He used to judge His people. It says in Zechariah, the 1st chapter, that God was angry with the surrounding nations. He said, I was only a little angry with my people, but you added to the calamity. In other words, you went too far. So what's the explanation for anti-Semitism? I believe there is a malignant, intelligent, spiritual being who hates the Jews and wants to wipe them out. In other words, Satan himself. And as outlandish as talk of Satan may seem to some, it's the only explanation that connects all the dots. Anti-Semitism is truly devilish. I've actually tested this theory out at special lectures at leading universities like Yale and Columbia, and no one has come up with a better answer. You see, God chose the Jewish people to be His agents of redemption, and through them the knowledge of the one true God has gone to the ends of the earth. And God said that despite our sins and failures, we would never, ever be wiped out. So what does that tell us? Satan's trying to wipe us out, he's trying to destroy us, and he hates the message of God. Look, Jesus Himself is a Jew, and through Jesus, millions of people love God and worship Him, and therefore the devil hates the Jews. And the Bible even says that it's going to be the Jewish people in Jerusalem who welcome Jesus back. All the more reason for satanic anti-Semitism. Very simple, very true. The Jews have been chosen with a mission by God. Satan hates it and wants to destroy us. It is a profound but simple truth. I believe that part of what makes the Jewish people special is that we've been chosen by God. We're not better or worse than anybody, but we have a mission. And we have a mission to make God known to the whole earth, to make His ethical culture and truth known. And Jesus, the Jew, is the most famous Jew in the whole world. And through Jesus, hundreds of millions of people believe in God, right? So if there was a force or a power or a being that would hate the Jews and that would hate God, who would that be? Supernatural explanation.
I think that its history is, you know, it's going back and repeat the story. This is the thing. It's coming around. If you look in the Bible and, you know, and start looking since Amalek and after that the Egyptians, and after that all the parts that the people
keep trying to wipe out.
Yes,
the Jews. So, you know, in the prophet Jeremiah, God said, no matter what Israel does, I'm going to keep you. I'm going to preserve you. So who is it that keeps trying to wipe the Jewish people out? Century after century, this culture, this religion, that religion. Who's trying to wipe us out? Who hates us so much?
I think it's, again, I think that it's ignorance. People that it's ignorant, that they don't have culture. We have a very strong line to go. And, you know, we don't move outside the line that we know that it's our line.
Right.
And this is like jealousy of the people that why they are going so straight,
right,
and the rest of the people is not going.
I appreciate that. Yep.
It's not like that.
I understand. So,
and also as a community inside Israel and outside Israel, we're strong, and it keeps us stronger because we have our own state.
And
also.
so that brings more
and we
hatred.
Support Israel and we support Jews outside Israel. We support each other all the time.
All right. I don't believe there's a purely rational answer for it. It's too long, it's too intense, it's too irrational, it's too widespread. All these little theories are here, there. Nothing connects all the dots. I believe it's actually supernatural, that it's spiritual, that the Jewish people What makes us different is that we were chosen by God for mission, not better or worse than anybody else, just with a specific mission, and it's to bring the knowledge of God to the whole world. Jesus himself is a Jew, and 1/3 of the world's population calls itself Christian and believes in God through him. So if there's a real spiritual world, real spiritual forces, who is it that would hate that? Who is it that would hate the Jews, and who is it that would try to wipe them out? If God said to the Jewish people, it's in the Bible, no matter what you do, I'm going to preserve you. Nobody's ever going to wipe you out. So who's going to try to make God look like a liar and is going to fight salvation going to all the world? Who would that be?
Have to be the devil.
The devil. What do you think about that? I don't know your background at all.
I mean, it's possible. I guess it'd be really hard to prove or disprove, though.
Think about it. Anti-Semitism is absolutely diabolical. But it's not so much because of the Jews themselves, it's because of God's purposes for the Jews and because Jesus the Messiah was a Jew. You say, yeah, but the church itself has been anti-Semitic. Listen, it's only when the church disconnected from its Jewish roots that it became anti-Semitic. It's another perversion of history. You see, the New Testament's a Jewish book. It tells us the story of Jesus the Jew, who was falsely accused and persecuted and hated and rejected and tortured and murdered in cold blood even though he was completely innocent. He's the ultimate hated Jew, and he can relate to us in our sufferings because he himself experienced baseless hatred. And the ultimate anti-Semitic ploy is to keep us Jews from rightly connecting with Jesus the Jew, because when we do, we usher in his return, and that means it's all over for the devil and his work. So the best thing you can do to put an end to anti-Semitism is to put your trust in Jesus, Yeshua, and help bring back our King. It'll be a bad day for anti-Semites everywhere when the King of the Jews comes back.
Can you make any connections between the hate towards Israel and Jews and the theories on Jews ruling the world?
Well, the theories of Jews ruling the world are just false. I mean, Jews don't rule anything. They're hardly even allowed to rule Israel without the world interfering. So Jews don't rule anything. But all of that goes back to your question earlier about the devil, right? If the devil, Satan, his name means the adversary, right? God says that Israel's the apple of his eye. He loves the Jewish people. Well, if God's going to love a people, then Satan is going to hate that people. And so the devil is behind a lot of the satanic and anti-Semitic actions throughout history.